Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cambly Live today. We will get started in just a few minutes, but while we're waiting for everybody to join, can you please type in the chat if you can see and hear me okay? You can just say, "Hi, Tutor Nicole. I can see you just fine." Okay, so just go ahead and type in the chat. Can you see and hear me all right? Hello, teacher. Hi, students. All right, so it sounds like you can see and hear me just fine. Thank you. Everybody, welcome to the Cambly Live today. My name is Tutor Nicole, and I am a tutor here on Cambly. And we have our live sessions every Sunday, so thank you for joining me on this morning, afternoon, or evening. As you join this Cambly Live, please type in the chat, where are you from? Okay, where are you calling in from? I'm from the United States. Where are you from? Looks like we have students calling in from Brazil, Sri Lanka, Moldova, hello, Bangladesh and India, Pakistan, Oman, Japan. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Hi from Japan, Brazil, South Korea, Nepal. This is great. Hi, South Africa, the Philippines. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. So we will start in just a few moments. We're going to wait for everybody to join our live session today. And while we're waiting, just type in, where are you from? Again, my name is Tutor Nicole, and I'm from the United States. I am so happy and excited to be teaching everybody today. We have students calling in from all over. We have students from Italy, Sri Lanka, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Japan. This is amazing. Awesome. Greetings from Singapore, Bangladesh, Pakistan. All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I know we have a lot of time differences here today, so thank you so much for taking the time and joining our live Cambly session here on Sunday. So let's go ahead and dive into what we're going to cover in our session today. Again, my name is Tutor Nicole. I work as a tutor for Cambly, and today we're going to be talking all about hobbies. So we're going to talk about what we do in our free time and what we do for fun. So I do have a little warm-up question for everybody, and that is, what is your favorite hobby? Okay, so you're going to answer in the chat, what is your favorite hobby? Okay, what do you love to do? For example, my favorite hobby is playing music. Okay, so I play a lot of instruments. I love the guitar, piano, the ukulele. So you're just going to type in the chat for our warm-up question, what is your favorite hobby? Lovely. I love how we're answering these questions. I see someone said, my favorite hobby is reading, playing hide and seek. I love playing hide and seek. That's one of my favorites. I like writing, especially poetry, gardening, reading books, traveling, dancing. Awesome. Playing piano, crocheting. Traveling. Yes, traveling is a good hobby. Okay, I love how we're answering these too. We're starting the sentences off with my favorite hobby is, and then we're answering what your favorite hobby is. I also like the students who are typing, I like to, or I love. You guys have some really cool hobbies. Awesome. Okay, and I do have a second question. My second warm-up question for everybody is, what is a hobby? So I want you to type in the chat. I want you to define, okay, so explain what is a hobby, okay? To you, what is a hobby? What does that mean? So you could say something you do for fun. A hobby could be what you do in your free time. Okay, I like this one. Hobby is something that you love doing. It's something that you love to do. A hobby is something you do in your leisure time. Okay, so or in your free time. Okay. Yeah, hobby could be extracurricular activities. Something you do to relax, maybe. Oh, and something that makes you happy. Okay, so this is something that you do in your free time and something that really makes you happy. It brings you joy. Another great point is someone said that a hobby is escapated from stress. So when you're stressed, what do you love to do? What gives you some passion, right? Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our lesson today. Again, we're going to be talking about hobbies. And first, I wanted to define what a hobby is. So, a hobby is a regular activity done for enjoyment during one's free time. Okay, so a free time is when you're not working, it's what you do when you're relaxing, and what you really enjoy doing. Okay, so some hobbies could include collecting items, creating things, performing, playing sports or music, and more. Okay, and so behind me, you will see a list of categories of different types of hobbies, and then we'll dive into the different kinds of hobbies within those categories. Some examples of hobbies would be playing soccer, drawing pictures, planting flowers, collecting stones, or juggling. Okay, so if you don't know what juggling is, that's, let's say you have 3 balls, you can juggle them in the air. Okay? So let's talk about some different types of hobbies. The first type is collecting. Okay, so you'll see that I also have collecting back here. Collecting means that you gather certain items. Okay, you bring them together because it brings you enjoyment. So let's say you really love rocks and you love to study rocks. You would go outside and you would travel and you would collect as many rocks as you can. Okay? A lot of people like to collect old sports cars, stamps. They like to collect vintage items. While we're talking about these different categories, I would love to know, what do you enjoy collecting? Okay? So for example, I really love collecting jewelry. I love collecting money from different countries, and I love collecting rocks. I'd love to know, what do you like to collect? Okay. Yeah, so you could collect stock exchanges, seashells, sneakers. Yeah, you could collect fashion and clothes. Collecting cat pictures, yes. Collecting old coins and books. Awesome. Yeah, you could collect mugs. Maybe you really love to travel. You could collect mugs from different countries or different cities. Okay, and so collecting really brings us enjoyment, and it's something that we do in our free time, okay? And so that is why it's considered to be a hobby. You'll also see next to collecting, I have a bunch of different examples. So antiques, books, coins, and rocks. And I love watching everybody type what they love to collect. It's really great to see. So thank you. So our next category of a hobby would be arts and crafts. Okay, arts and crafts is the name of the hobby. And up here you will see arts and crafts. So some examples of arts and crafts would be gardening, photography, drawing. It could be crocheting, making blankets. All right. And while we're on this category, I'd love for you to type in the chat, what do you love to do with arts and crafts? Is there a hobby that you enjoy that is considered an art and craft? So for example, I love to crochet blankets, and I also love to garden. So arts and crafts is typically when you make something, okay? When you make something out of tools like crayons and markers and paint, and you make something different out of it. So yeah, photography could be something. Lovely. Okay, so you could sew clothes, stitch sweaters. This is so great to see. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. So we're going to get into our next category, which is performing arts. So performing arts is a hobby which normally includes performing, okay? So showing your talents to other people. Some examples of this could be acting. So the actors and actresses that you see in movies, they would be considered performing arts. You could even think of the circus. You can juggle. You could act, dancing. So a lot of different types of dancing would be considered performing arts. Thank you for giving me more examples. Yes, there is stage drama, there's acting, singing, and music. Yes, performing arts is an art that you do and you perform. Okay, so the main goal is to perform. So yeah, you could do like breakdancing, tango or flamenco, puppet play. Yeah, if you love puppets, you could do puppet play. Awesome job, you guys. So this kind of brings us into our next one, which is music. I'd like to know, do you guys play music? Do you play any instruments? If so, go ahead and type in the chat what music you like or what music you play. So up here you will see some different types of music. Could be singing, guitar, piano, or drums. What do you play? And you could answer this by saying, I play blank, or I like to play blank. So for example, I like to play the guitar, or I play the piano. Awesome. So I see a lot of people play the guitar, ukulele, piano. Awesome. And let's say you don't like music. You could say, I don't like music, or I don't play music, or I don't play instruments. Awesome job, everybody. Thank you. So the next one is an interesting one, and that is food and drink. So food and drink is another type of hobby. It's another category. And this could be a lot of different things. So in your free time, maybe you love to bake cakes, or you love to bake cupcakes and pies. That would be considered a hobby, okay? And that is under food and drink. Maybe you really love to taste different types of coffee. You're really into drinking coffee and you love to try different coffee shops. That could be a food and drink. One of the most interesting ones to me in this category would be something called competitive eating. So competitive eating is a hobby, and that is in the food and drink, and that means for fun, you like to eat as much as you can in a short period of time. Now, in the United States, we have competitive eating competitions where people will come up and there's one food item. Let's say it is a hot dog or a pie. You compete against other people to see how many hot dogs you can eat in that time. So, for example, I think the record set last year was this guy from the United States, and he ate 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Okay, so that could be a hobby, seeing how much you could eat in such a short period of time. That is competitive eating. Okay? And so while we're on this topic, I would love for you to type in the chat, what is a hobby that you love in the food and drink category? For example, I love tasting coffee. I love cooking and baking. Okay, what do you love? Okay, I love baking cakes. Lovely. I love making cupcakes. I love cooking. I love drinking tea and baking bread. A lot of people, their favorite hobby is to try and make the perfect loaf of bread. That is definitely a hobby. Okay. Maybe you could also love making pasta from scratch. Making something from scratch means making it for the first time. So you use minimal ingredients and you make it yourself. Okay, so instead of buying the pasta, you would put in the flour and the water and the eggs, and you would make the pasta yourself. So that means making something from scratch. Awesome. All right, let's move into our next category. Our next category is games. Okay, so types of games. This can mean a lot of different things. It could mean board games. It could mean video games. It could mean card games. So for example, I really love to play Chinese checkers. I love to play cards. And I love to play this game called Catan. Okay, that's a board game. So please type in the chat, what is a hobby that you love that is considered a game? So what this wouldn't be is like sports. Okay, that's something different. Right now we're just talking about games. So for example, card games, video games, or board games. Okay, so chess is a game, Monopoly, table tennis, Scrabble. Scrabble is a great way to practice your English. Good. Jigsaw puzzles. Yeah, you could also do just like normal puzzles, so putting pieces together to create an image. This could also be mind games. So, for example, Sudoku puzzles or crossword puzzles. All really great tools to work your brain, and it's also considered a hobby. Lovely. All right, let's get into the next category. The next category is sports, okay? And there are a lot of different types of sports. But today we're gonna focus on indoor sports versus outdoor sports. So sports that you play inside versus outside. There is also competitive or recreational sports. Okay, so competitive means going head and head against each other, okay? So for example, soccer or basketball is competitive. And recreational could be something like swimming or dancing, something you do not need to be on a team for, something you just do for fun, okay? So an indoor sport example could be basketball. Okay, so you can play basketball inside, but an outdoor sport would be something like baseball. Okay, so baseball you would play outside. Can you please type in the chat, what is your favorite sport? And please tell me, is it an indoor sport, an outdoor sport? Is it competitive or recreational? Or maybe you don't play sports. Okay, so just type in the chat. So for example, I play a sport called lacrosse. Lacrosse is less known, but it's where you have a stick and a ball and you cradle it and you toss it. And I would say I play an outdoor sport called lacrosse. Okay, maybe you could even say it is a competitive sport because it is one team versus another. Awesome. So I see a lot of people play sports like badminton, which is an outdoor sport. There is swimming, which could be maybe recreational or competitive. Bicycling, or you could say cycling. That would be an indoor or outdoor sport. Playing cricket as an outdoor sport. You could play indoor volleyball. Awesome. I love to see what kind of hobbies you play. Thank you so much for sharing. Awesome. Let's take a look. So some more examples of sports could be cycling, running, soccer, and yoga. Okay, so yoga would be a good example of an indoor recreational sport. Okay? Soccer would be a good example of an outdoor competitive sport. All right, so let's get into our very last category. This will be the last thing we learn before we dive into something new. So the last category would be electronics. Okay, so electronics, you could also say maybe technology. Okay, so electronics or technology. I'm gonna give you a few examples, but electronics is another type of hobby, and we'll talk about different types of things you could do with electronics. So one example of electronics would be robotics. Maybe your favorite hobby is to build robots. That would be really interesting. Another interesting and newer idea would be drones. So drones is very common now, and it is this little helicopter that has a camera, and you can fly it up in the sky and take pictures and videos, but that is an electronic. There is also model cars, so maybe you really love to build model airplanes or model cars. So please type in the chat, what are other different types of hobbies that would be considered electronic or has to do with technology? Okay. Okay, so maybe your favorite hobby is that you like to play with drones, or you like to build model airplanes. Okay, maybe you like gaming. That could be technology. Oh, repairing things. Okay, so maybe repairing watches or repairing computers. So repair means to fix something, and that would be a lot to do with electronics. Lovely. Awesome. So we're going to take a quick, I'm going to give a quick announcement real quick, and that is if you're joining right now and you didn't get to see the very beginning, don't worry, because after this live session is over, you can go back to the Cambly YouTube page and re-watch our video from the beginning, okay? So don't worry if you're coming just now. You can always re-watch this video after we finish our live session. Okay, so we just learned about the different types of categories and different types of hobbies that you could play. Thank you so much for sharing all of your different answers. It was so nice to see what are different passions and hobbies that you guys love. So we're going to talk a little bit about the common questions. So how can we talk about hobbies? How can we ask different questions? And how can we answer them? Okay? So a great way to ask someone what their favorite hobby is you could say, what do you like to do for fun? So this is just a way to ask, what is your favorite hobby? What do you like to do for fun? Okay, another great way to ask is, what do you do in your free time? What do you do in your free time? Okay. Another way to ask the question would be, what are some of your hobbies? What are some of your hobbies? And so this one is asking, tell me all the hobbies, not just one. Tell me some of your hobbies. So many hobbies. So to answer this, you would have to say 2 or more hobbies, okay? Feel free to take notes with me or to practice saying these questions out loud. All right. Now, the next step is we're going to learn how to answer the questions and different ways we could answer questions about hobbies. Okay? And as we're doing this, please feel free to type in the chat examples. Okay, so you could practice using these different phrases by typing them back to me in the chat. So for example, we're going to learn I like to. Okay, I like to. Just type in the chat maybe I like to dance. Okay. So we could say I like to play sports. I enjoy playing sports. You could say in my free time, I dance. Okay. You could also make it really simple and say things like I love, I hate, or I like. So let's say someone says, my favorite hobby is playing sports, and you don't like sports. You could say, I don't like or I hate playing sports. Okay. Now we're going to learn how to build our sentences. So up here, you'll see that there's two different ways that we can answer these questions. Okay, so let's take a look at number one. So you would start by saying either I like, I love, I don't like, or I hate, plus the verb, plus ing. So let's say you want to use the word sing. You would choose one of these. So you would say I love singing. Okay, so I love singing. You could also say something like I like singing. I like singing. Okay, so let's take some time to practice with number one. So go ahead and answer, what is your favorite hobby? And use this formula. So I like verb, so maybe playing sports. Okay, so I like playing sports. Great job. I love reading. I like reading. I love playing guitar. Good. So for this first one, we will not use to. We will just say, instead of saying to dance, we will just say dance. Okay, so dancing, not to dancing, just dancing. Great job. Lovely. Thank you. I love seeing your answers. You guys are doing such a wonderful job. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at the second way that we can answer this question, okay? And that would be just the verb plus to. So for example, you could say, I like to dance, okay? I like to dance. You could also say, I love to dance. Okay, so let's practice with number two. Just type in the chat, how could you answer, what do you love to do, using the formula for number two? Awesome. I saw someone says, I like to read. That is excellent. I love to play basketball. Great. I love to read storybooks. I love to travel. So yes, you can use two different types. You could use option one or option two. And you'll see that the end result is here. So I like dancing or I like to dance. Awesome job, everybody. All right, let's move on to a little bit of practice. So I'm going to have you guys focus on what we've learned today and answer a few questions. So this says to fill in the missing word. So I'm going to give you some sentences and you are going to decide what category, okay, so what type of hobby the sentence is. So you can practice saying this out loud with me, or you can type it in the chat, okay? So number one says blank requires you to find as many possible of one type of thing, like CDs or baseballs. Okay, so what is it that requires you to find this many items? Okay, so remember we're talking about the categories. Is it arts and crafts that requires you to find a lot of things? Is it performing arts or music? Or is it maybe collecting or sports? Awesome job. All right. So yes, that would be collecting. Good job. So remember, collecting means that you try to gather as much as one item. Okay, so maybe collecting plants or collecting cards. Great job, everybody. Okay, let's look at number 2. We have here arcade blank includes pinball machines and a wide variety of computer games. So what type of category would go here? Would it be arcade sports, arcade collecting, arcade arts and crafts? Awesome job, yes. That would be arcade games. Okay, so remember, games is a very popular type of hobby. Good job. Awesome. Okay, so we have 2 or 3 more questions left. The next one, number 3, it says, you play a blank if you play soccer, yoga, swim, kayak, or hike. So what hobby is it? What hobby would go here? Remember, the different colors over here are the types of hobbies. Good. You play a sport. Okay, so you play a sport if you play soccer or yoga, swim, hike, or kayak. Nice job, everybody. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. So number 4 says that people who sing, act, dance, or participate in the. Okay, so what type of hobby is it where people sing, dance, or act? Okay, this one's a little confusing. So yeah, maybe it could be music, or it could be performing arts. Okay, so that could be performing arts or music. Nice work. Good job, everybody. All right, so we have one last question. Number 5 says, Maria really enjoys painting and drawing. She loves blank. So if you love to paint or draw, what type of hobby would you love? Lovely. Yes, remember we have the categories over here. And I see a lot of people that said arts and crafts. You are correct. Okay, so if you love painting or art, you love arts and crafts. Good job, everybody. Okay, so now I just want to share a few interesting hobbies. Maybe I could teach you about some things that you didn't know about already. Okay, so we're going to talk about some interesting hobbies. And then at the very end of the session, we're going to do about 3 minutes of writing practice. So please stay with me. I'm going to teach you a few interesting hobbies, and then we'll get into some writing practice. So earlier I talked about a hobby that is in food and drink, and that is competitive eating. Remember, this is something that people enjoy doing. They like to eat as much as they can in a short period of time to win prizes or to win first place. So remember earlier I said that the record last year was that someone ate 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Okay, and so that is an interesting hobby, which is competitive eating. So maybe you could teach your friends and family what competitive eating is. So the next one that is pretty interesting is something called geocaching. So this is something that you do on your phone outside. You hide little gifts around where you live or in a different area. And then online, you give different hints for people who like to geocache to find your items. Okay, so this is called geocaching. And it's kind of like Pokemon Go, but you're actually digging up and finding things. Okay? So the next one is calligraphy. So this is an interesting hobby. Calligraphy would be maybe some arts and crafts, and that is the practice of handwriting. So up here, I tried to do calligraphy. I'm not very good, but calligraphy is where you practice handwriting, okay? Another interesting hobby based out of Japan is something called origami. Origami is an art and craft, and it is where you take paper and you can fold it to make pretty things. So for example, in origami, you could fold paper to make maybe like a heart or a bird. Okay, that is origami. So another interesting one is something called puppetry. Puppetry is maybe a performing art. Okay, so puppetry is where you have a doll on your hand, and you use the dolls and you talk like this so nobody can tell, and you have the puppets perform. That is called puppetry. So that is an interesting performing art. Another interesting hobby is an indoor sport called cup stacking. Cup stacking is something that I used to play, and it is where you take cups, and you take the cups, and you stack them really high, and then you take them down as fast as you can. Okay, so that is called cup stacking. Good. And then last but not least, another interesting sport is something called archery. So archery is where you have a small goal far away, and you take a bow and arrow, and you try to get it in the middle. Okay, that's called archery. And that's another interesting one. All right, so now we've learned about all the different types of hobbies, how to express our hobbies, and for the last part of this, we are going to practice our writing skills. So get ready to type or maybe write down on a piece of paper. We're gonna practice what we learned today just by writing in the chat, okay? So the first question is, what are some of your hobbies? What are some of your hobbies? So this is the question I'd like everybody to answer. And while you're answering this, I'm gonna pull up an example of what I wrote, but I want you to make your own answer, okay? So I said, I love riding my bike, cooking, and playing guitar. So please answer in complete sentences. I would love to see, what are some of your hobbies? Awesome. Okay, so I see some people are saying, I love reading, sketching, and playing games. That's great. I love reading books, painting, and cooking. I love watching TV shows, swimming, cooking, crocheting, and reading. We have so many different hobbies. Good job, everybody. Awesome. All right. Now, I do have another question for us, and that is, what hobby would you like to learn? So what hobby do you not know, but you would like to know? So for example, you could say, I would like to learn how to do origami, or I would like to learn origami. My example here is, I would like to know how to windsurf, juggle, dance, and play the banjo. So what would you like to learn? Okay, so maybe I would like to learn how to swim. I would like to learn how to juggle, fish. I would like to learn calligraphy. Good. Awesome job, everybody. Nice work. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining the live session today. Remember, if you joined late and you missed some of the content, you can always go back to the Cambly YouTube channel and re-watch this video. So I really enjoyed learning about all the different types of hobbies and how to answer them in a conversation. It's really great that we have students from all over the world with so many different passions and hobbies. And I'm just really happy that I got to learn what some of your hobbies are. So thank you so much for joining the live session today. Again, we have live sessions every single Sunday at the same time. So for this last part, I want to talk a little bit about Cambly. So Cambly is an online English learning platform where you can be paired with native English speakers to practice your English. That is what Cambly is, if you aren't familiar with it. And you can always book a reservation with me using the link below. Okay, there's a lot of really, really great tutors on there that I'm sure would be so happy to help you with your English. And for joining the live session today, I do have a promo code. So this could get you up to 36% off of your yearly subscription. And all you do is type in Go Live. There's also a promo code link attached to the video below. Okay? So you could use Go Live and get up to 36% off of your yearly subscription. Awesome. Well, I had so much fun learning about your hobbies today. Thank you again for joining. And have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. All right. Goodbye, everybody.